Hi, my friend Andy asked me a while ago to if I could give a talk on ego, and it's got to be a couple of weeks ago that he asked me, and I realised today because I was thinking about doing a video clip today and what to talk about, and I realised that I was avoiding the subject of ego that Andy had asked me, and the reason that I'm avoiding it is because it's such a big subject. It's a really big topic, and I was thinking, where do I start on ego? So I've been thinking of ways of trying to explain this in a really simple way, just as much for myself as anybody else. It's such a complex issue, and I like to keep these videos really short, but you know, this is quite a hard one to keep short. So, ego. Right, where to start? Well, one of the best acronyms I've ever heard for ego is Edge God Out. So the E is Edge, G, God, O, out. So Edge God Out, which I'll come back to in a minute. So why do we have ego? What is it? When we're born, when you think of a baby's really vulnerable, and its probably main instincts are just survival, okay? It depends on its parents, it depends on its carer to look after it. It's really vulnerable in this world, this big cold world that it's suddenly being thrust into from this really comfortable, warm, dark place. You know, that I'm guessing babies felt really safe. Next thing, they're in this big bright light, freezing cold, thinking, I've always thought if babies could talk, their first words would be, it's probably a good job that they can't be, would be something like, what the fuck's just happened? So, you know, you've got this vulnerable baby. As it grows, it realises as it goes out into the world, it's got to fit in with society, the things its parents tell it to do. If it wants to, you know, stay connected, it doesn't want to be rejected. We go to school, we start to learn different things. You know, some of the kids out there can be cruel. So ego is something that we develop to keep us safe. It's almost like, the best analogy I can think of at the moment is almost like a suit of armour. And as we grow, we develop this suit of armour to keep us safe and protect us. It's protecting the small child within, the feelings. So the problem is the ego. A lot of people talk about ego being bad. It's not necessarily bad. Everybody's got ego. I've never met a human being yet that hasn't got ego. Everybody's got it. Like I said, we need it to survive in this world and adapt to this world and keep us safe. The problem is with this suit of armour that after a while we get so used to having it, we think it's real and it becomes our reality. It becomes who we are, or we think it does. So then if anybody threatens that belief system that we've got about who we are, we feel threatened, we feel scared, and the ego, the suit of armour, will defend itself. Yeah, so that's quite often somebody says something that you don't like, somebody says something that you disagree with, and you find yourself getting defensive or maybe getting angry. That's the armour, that's the ego, you know, doing its job. The problem is that not only is, if you think of a suit of armour, it's protecting the person inside it, in this case the child, again, that we've all got within us, where all our feelings are, but it also keeps everything out, which is what it's meant to do to a certain extent. But this is why I started with the Edge God Out acronym, because one of the things that it keeps out is our spiritual nature. And I know everyone's got different beliefs on this. I personally believe that we're spiritual beings having an earthly experience. But what happens, because the armour becomes our reality, it thinks it's real, not only does it keep everything safe within it, it also cuts everything off outside as well. So it cuts off our spiritual nature. Our spiritual nature can't get through. That's the Edge God Out bit. So people talk about death of the ego and getting rid of your ego. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea. Ego has protected us. It's kept us safe for this amount of time, for this long. So yeah, I don't think you need to get rid of it. I think what we need to do is be able to learn to control it. So by that I mean I need to know when I can take my suit of armour off, when it's safe. Do I need it all of the time? It's heavy, it's hot. Do I need it all the time? No, of course I don't. I probably need it a hell of a lot less than I think that I need it. So it's knowing when to put the ego down. I can always pick that suit of armour back up again and put it on when I feel like I need protection, or I feel like I'm in an area that I don't feel safe. I can put the armour back on. But like I said, the real skill here is knowing when to put the armour on and when not to. When am I coming from my ego? You know, when somebody says something, why am I feeling threatened? Is that my ego? Because 9 times out of 10 it is. You know, just because somebody's got a different belief to me, does that mean that they're right and I'm wrong? Maybe neither one of us are right or wrong. Like Shakespeare said, nothing's good or bad, it's just our thinking that makes it so. Or we could say it's just our ego that makes it so. So, you know, ego's got a bad press, which I personally think is wrong. Ego's important, but like I said, the skill is knowing when you're coming from a place of ego and when you're not, and letting that spirituality in. Our ego is very much attached to our senses, you know, which is probably why we've got so many problems in the world at the moment. You know, if you think about our senses, eating. You only have to look around the world and look at the obesity and things like that in a lot, especially Western parts of the world. Touch, sex, the amount of pornography, people with sex addictions and rape and, you know, the things that happen to children and things like that. So, you know, the problem is if we attach too much to our senses, which is ego, that's when we can have big problems. So, you know, like I said, I could go on and on about ego, but I'm just hoping this makes sense. Ego is not necessarily a bad thing. It's when we attach to it too much, when we forget that we can take that suit of armour off, which is our ego, we can take it off and we can put it back on. If it's on all the time, then it becomes your reality, and it's not real. Ego is not real. That's the thing to remember. It's a tool that can help you. It can keep you safe, but you can also take it off. It's not always a good place. It's not always a good place to come from. It's quite a fearful place. You know, ego tends to be, we've learnt to protect ourselves from a fearful place. For me, the spirituality is love. So it's knowing when to let that love in, which has got to be most of the time, to be honest. So I hope that makes sense, Andy. It's realising that your beliefs are not always real. Like I say, I hope that makes sense. We could go on and on about this. It's a really big topic, but I just wanted to touch on it. And you know, that's my view on ego. If people have got different views on ego, please let me know. You know, like we say, put it on the site, put it up there, and we can all have a look at it. You know, my ego's hoping it's under enough control that I can take it down. And you know, I'm open to all different beliefs and all different systems and religions and everything else. So thanks for your time. My low power mode's coming up here, so I'm going to go now. Thanks for your time and hopefully speak to you soon. Take care.